Introduce yourself and tell us why you wanted to talk to me so badly.
Sure.
And I want to elaborate on why I think it's so important to talk to you.
Sure. So first of all, I do want to offer my condolences, to Takeoff and his family and his friends and his followers and everyone. And, God should bless him, that he should rest in peace, and the family should only have good news, revealed good from here on out. And your pain is our pain. We're not two communities. We're one community. We're one community on one planet serving one God. And we're all together. So, why I wanted to talk to you so much is I've been following what you've been doing, and I just find that your message is so spot on, and it's a rare message. And you said something the other day that, we can't just cancel people, we have to talk with them. My rabbi, his name is Menachem Mendel Schneerson. He's also known as the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was arguably the one of the greatest rabbis that ever lived. Every generation has a leader. Every generation has a Moses. And he was the Moses of our generation. And there was riots one time in Crown Heights where he lived. And the mayor of New York reached out to him. And his whole concept was, don't call people anti-Semites, because that only creates more anti-Semitism. When you label them at their worst, then they say, oh, I'm an anti-Semite, so I might as well act like it. But instead, find commonalities, find common ground, take leaders from the Jewish community, the black community, and put them together in dialogue. And what resonated with your message so much, that you just knew this so intuitively. And I said, hey, here's a guy that gets it. And I've been under fire too, a little bit, because I've been preaching this message. Let's reach out, let's collaborate, let's grow. And I just felt like our messages were symbiotic.
Well, that's refreshing. What I wanted to do is interview you and get your thoughts on not my strategy, or the strategy that we operated with the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding for so many years, which you have just said you agree with. I mean, Of course, there comes a time where we have to walk away from people, but for me as a yogi, it takes a lot for me to give up on people. Condemning messages is easy. Condemning people, in my opinion, is a very bad slippery slope. Go down, because, as you said, it promotes in them, and if they're very famous, millions of fans, it promotes in them an anger and a resentment. And we want the tens of millions of fans to promote love and exude love, and therefore the leader of those fans should feel love and see a way out of the conflict, if it is, that is not humiliating, right? But not putting them in a corner. So that's an interesting thing. Now, you said also, I noticed, I didn't know you felt this way, but I did know you said this. You posted Kanye saying about Jewish business. There were two things that I thought was interesting. He was jealous of Jewish religious community. And tell us why, or what did you post?
Yeah, so there was one time I was outside my synagogue, and there was a whole bunch of black guys hanging out, on the stoop. And I didn't grow up religious. I grew up completely not religious. And I really vibed with the, black culture. I loved rap. I loved Kanye. To all my people who be drug dealing just to get by. Like, I love that stuff. I love Jay-Z. I grew up on the Beastie Boys. I grew up on all your stuff that you put out. And so I always connected with the black community, even when it became religious. So I remember there was a bunch of black guys hanging out in my synagogue, and I was bored, and the door wasn't open. So I went to go talk to them. I'm like, yo, what's up? How you doing? We spoke for 20 minutes. By the end of the conversation, we realized that we're both human. And they said to me, no offense, but we know that y'all own and run everything. And I'm like, no offense, take it, I think I take it as a compliment. I don't know why everyone gets hot and heavy when they say that Jews are good in business. Thank God we are good in business. I think one of the reasons why we're good in business, a Torah Jew, a Jew that tries to do his best by God, is honest, gives charity, never wants to wrong anybody. One of the 10 Commandments is thou shalt not steal. not because somebody's going to find out and you're going to go to jail, but because God doesn't like stealing. So Jewish people are good at business, and I think that the core why we've been good at business for so long is because we try to do business the way that God wants us to do business. And if there's some Jewish people in Hollywood that are not doing business the way that it should be done, well, then we pray for them, and that's not a Jew at his best. And we pray that a Jew does his best, and we pray that they come back to really what the essence of what a Torah Jew is, what a Bible believing Jew is.
Well, I'm always under fire from the black community and from the Jewish community equally, maybe more. From the
Look, you're taking a strong position.
And I want him to be a leader. And so, what do you feel about that? I mean, by now, should I have condemned him by now? I condemned his words countless times, but him, I felt there was some redeeming qualities that need to be expressed. And also, he's one of the few successful black men who can make a difference in our communities. I mean, although a little crazy, he's genius. And his future doesn't have to end here. And his potential and value to the community shouldn't end here.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion. But that's my opinion. And God knows that I'm going to express what he puts on my heart and nothing else. That's my opinion.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish the question. Go ahead.
No, I don't even have I'm just saying that's been the reason I've been, in some cases, under attack. And
so take it from me, an Orthodox Jewish person who does his best what God wants him to do. At the core and essence of Judaism is something called teshuvah, which in Hebrew means returning. A person was made, we know about the tree of knowledge. When people ate from the tree of knowledge, when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, they were given an evil inclination. And sometimes it's a battle. It goes on inside of us. You remember the cartoons? You have the angel over here and you have the devil over here, and the cartoon is sort of choosing which one. So some people choose the devil more often than they choose the angel. And we have to encourage people. We shouldn't highlight their negative, but we should rather highlight their positive. And when we highlight their positive, we actually bring that out of them. So should you have condemned Kanye until now? No, I think you did exactly the right thing. What you wrote to him was, hey, come over here to me in Bali. Let's work this thing out. Let's figure this thing out. I saw that. I liked it. And, let's roll and let's make peace. And you know what? I hope he's watching this right now. And I want to tell you that I believe that you are a good person deep down inside. Not even so deep. You're a good dude. And in 1 second, a person could do tshuva. In 1 second, a person could do the right thing.
That's very funny because listening to you, and I know it exists everywhere because it comes out of your mouth and from the Torah, but in the Yoga Sutras, the 1 second, I start with 1 second, a person could become enlightened and be fully in service of God and live enlightened or in samadhi or takwa or what they call Christ consciousness. Or there's many names for it. But this could happen in 1 second. But also, the yogi is looking to accept all of these things, but always practice, always evolving. And when we push it right, when we give good, we grow. And we continue to grow as a process by doing good, by receiving good, and giving more good. And education about who we are and what our higher self is calling us to do is not something that's as common outside of your religious community, outside of the good Muslims, the good Christians, the good Buddhists, the good I say good, not to mean others are bad, but those who are practicing their faith.
Yeah.
Those who are trying to practice their faith and are returning. And also when they have community that reminds them to come back over and over again to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can leave God and the whole community can drag you the wrong way. Or you can come to God and the whole community could drag you towards God. So this is a yogic principle, but it is not only. Krishna said, whether you know me as Krishna or not has no bearings on whether you come to me. Just the same as I would say to all the children of Abraham, share one God, and crystal clear that Muhammad, Abraham, Jesus, in my mind as a yogi, I would say they were one and the same. That they all came as messengers for God to bring us back to God and goodness.
100%.
So it's about those who are practicing what we preach. Or if we preach it, at least we're remembering to remember this goodness in us, and maybe that will help us to act accordingly.
You know, you're poetic. You should be like in the entertainment business or something.
Well, I've always away from the stage. Anyway,
Let me ask you a question. Is yogi, is that associated with Buddhism or no?
the yogic scripture is said to come long before all of the scriptures, sorry to say.
It's okay. It's okay. I like to learn. By the way, that's what
who's first or whatever, but
we're
the yoga,
learning.
there's no timeline on it, and the Bhagavad Gita, the most famous book where Krishna teaches Arjuna yoga. Lord Krishna comes well, Arjuna goes to Krishna and asks him for help in a battle, and so does his cousin. So they're battling cousins, two kingdoms. Anyway, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is the chariot driver, while the cousin asks Krishna for the army, and the cousin and the army are lined up. It is Arjuna, the warrior, and Krishna is his chariot driver and a much smaller army. And their armies are lined up, and before the trumpet blows, Krishna teaches Arjuna yoga. This is the most famous book in India, the Bhagavad Gita. Everyone is meant to read it, but it's not a Hindu book, although it is a Hindu book because Krishna is teaching Arjuna. But in the Yoga Sutras, there are no deities or anything of the like. It's just a science book to bring you to God. In the science book, the Yoga Sutras, there are 8 limbs that are the same as what's etched in all the scriptures and in our heart. So when you read them, like when you read the Torah, it rings a bell, right? Something comes out, you read it, you're like, oh, I know that's true. When you read the Bible, you say, oh, I know that's true. The Quran, because in your heart, it's already written, right? So that's why the fundamental practice of yoga is to bring one to their highest self.
Nice.
Even Jesus said, behold, the kingdom is inside you. So this idea that God's words, it's great to come through a prophet, but he's reminding you of your truth. So that's the
You
yoga.
should know that yoga got
Muslim.
yoga got me. Sign?
It's a yogic science to refer to. My school is a school of yogic science.
By the way, if you're looking for a Jewish business partner in the yogi school, I'm looking for investments.
Always look.
You know, I like what you said, by the way. Before I get to that point, I want to let you know that yoga got me through the pandemic. It really relaxed me in a time of stress.
Yeah.
It really got me through some really hard times. And but it's a beautiful exercise. You know, I was listening to one of your lives that you did, and you said something. You said when, you know, in Hollywood, you said the white people didn't give us a chance. They wouldn't talk to us. The Jewish guys would answer our calls. They would do business with us. Okay, maybe their contracts were a little bit harder, you know, than the other guys, but at the end of the day, they did business with us.
No, I think you missed my point. I said that not only in Hollywood, but in all of the instances, it ended up being Jews who answered the call. And in Hollywood, the Jews who answered the call didn't worry about the boundaries. In the music industry, the Jews got the records on the radio. The WASP didn't like it. They said, why did I get these Jews in the business? They're getting black people on the radio. Right? They got the records. And so I said about the contract, I said, well, you know, if the Jew was the only one in town, he made a decent deal, right? Because he made a deal based on what was available. And the WASP were not helping black artists.
So interesting.
Right? So the Jews did. So, you know, in many cases, the Jews bought the buildings a little cheaper because the WASP didn't want them. And if the blacks could afford them, they would have owned them. So in the cases where Jews own buildings or the cases where Jews are successful, and in all the industries that I've seen that Jews are very successful in, they got in those industries because the WASP let them get in.
Interesting.
Right? They couldn't be in fashion because their names could never carry a brand. You can't. Lipschitz could never be the brand.
No, I agree.
Fake name, Loren, so Loren became a brand. So mostly They were the makers of goods, and Wasp would put their names on the goods and sell those clothes, but the Jews were in the back making the clothes. And this is what they did also for the fashion revolution that I helped promote years back. They were the backbone in many, I said this before, many licenses of jewelry and bags and belts and underwear, all separate companies, and leather goods when I was before veganism. All the goods were made separately by separate Jewish families and businesses for my fat farm experience. And so same with Rockaway and the other 15 or 20 giant brands, Sean's company, Sean Diddy's company, all of them. Every clothing company that exploded in the back making the clothes were the Jews.
Wow.
So that is our experience. So, of course,
by the way, and in the front
was a great.
In the front was a black woman or a black man making it cool.
Yeah. Well,
it's a good partnership.
We have a moment here where there's a lot to collaborate on because blacks have numbers. Mostly Jews vote with us, almost all Jews.
Sure.
Those who make priority out of Israel, so much so that they cannot vote for a progressive agenda, I understand. But then I meet with them, they're all progressive. But they really want to protect. So they think that that's the route to protect Israel. So there's some, and mostly Orthodox and more religious Jews, but most of American Jews vote exactly the same way as black people. And they vote for the empowerment of underserved communities. And they've also, obviously, if they're in Congress, they're liberal, right? Anybody, when we had the Jewish Congress and the Black Congress meet every month as part of my duties as the chairman of the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding, we had Black and Jewish Congress meet and push agendas all the time. There was a unified front, the Black and Jewish Congress.
It's so interesting.
And again,
Mark,
the difference between the Black Congress and the Jewish Congress is that many people who were successful were voting against their interests, but for their interests if it was the good of humanity. So I believe that maybe that's my silliness, but I believe equal high quality education, equal high quality healthcare. I believe in giving people a leg up in a community where the rich are getting so much richer and the poor are getting so much poor. So I think mostly the Democratic agenda serves that. And so the Jewish caucus were all Democrats, right? And that's just the reality. And to the dismay of some religious Jews who wanted them to choose Israel over all and not worry about the American agenda. So anyway, I just want to tell you that piece of history and share that with you because it seems worth sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Martin Luther King. What's that?
I didn't get enough of you. Were a club promoter.
I was the best nightclub promoter that you ever saw. The best. You wanted to be on my parties. So I was the first person. I did business with Drake before he was Drizzy, and and if he's watching this, I want to thank you for that, Drake. It was a good night. I was the first person to bring Drake to Montreal for a concert. And at the time, he wasn't going by Drake. He was going by Aubrey from the show Degrassi. And we paid him $4,000 to come to Montreal. Today, he's probably $4 million to sneeze at my son's bar mitzvah. But we paid him $4,000, and I was in that milieu. I was in that life. And I remember I was making a reality show about my life at that point. Drake is in the show, by the way. You could watch it. Just Google Orthodox after this. And I remember I made a reality show because the Kardashians were becoming very cool back then, and they were like really spearheading. They were spearheading. It's all coming, actually, now that I'm saying it, it's all coming full circle. And Facebook had just come out, so I made this reality show, and I went to go launch it at this nightclub in Montreal called 1234. And I saw myself on the screen, and I stood for drugs, sex, and rock and roll. I didn't have God in my life. And I said to myself, I saw myself on the screen, I said, what the hell am I doing? What am I promoting? What am I leading my community towards? Who is in that nightclub? 1,500 young Jewish people. And I was promoting to them drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and I hated what I was standing for. And I left my party, I snuck out the back door, I didn't say anything to anybody, and I said to myself, I better figure out a new way to live. And I learned about Christianity. I read the Quran. I practiced Buddhism for 6 months. I didn't talk. I took a vow of silence. I read all the books, Siddhartha. I was so into all this, and I was looking for redemption. I was looking for God. One day, my mother says to me, "You know, we also have a religion. It's called Judaism. Maybe you should check it out." And I walked to synagogue, and it was delicious. And God is so sweet. Today, I have so many friends, and unfortunately, are still caught up in that life. But today, I have 4 beautiful children. I have one on the way. I have a beautiful wife, a beautiful family, 2 beautiful businesses, and beautiful friends like you. And I think what has kept me on that path is God. God is my track.
It was such a pleasure meeting you, and
You too.
And here today, you're sharing this. When I went to your Instagram page before this interview, I mean, we were going to talk, not interview, and I said, and I thought enough faith in our conversation that I could share it, and I'm very glad for sharing it, because again, a lot of black people in America don't know any Jews, and I want to say this because the threat of anti-Semitism is, scary. Hurt people hurt people. And I'm going to say this, then I'm going to talk about the black community. But, hurt people hurt people. And so the 11 or 13 million Jews in the world, the whole world, and 6 million in Israel, are very, very successful and very, very coveted and very threatened to some degree. If they're practicing Jews and they remember what happened yesterday, they're threatened. Yeah. And so this is why I think that they lash out against anyone who would say things that will create hate for them. They're very afraid. Can you speak to the fear in the community and the reaction? Because it's the same as when you think about the bigger picture in Israel. I mean, can we promote love and give things and work on developing a better relationship with the Palestinians? Or do we have to have our bridges and our walls up? And is it one or the other? Is it not a combination of what do you think about the reaction from the community? I for one, was very disturbed by the Kyrie Irving response, because I think it was a tweet that no one had ever heard of, and a movie that no one had ever heard of. And I thought that had I known about this, I would have gone to him personally and said, here's why people are offended. And Kyrie Irving, who is also a person who shares something, love of all religions, and even in the way you expressed it, and seeing the sameness in the prophet's words. And he talks about that regularly. So for a person who loves all religions, I think it would have been easy to have that conversation behind the scenes, rather than having so many people now up in arms about his public discussion or even humiliation. So I think the way forward to fight anti-Semitism is education. Because when people understand, like when I said, the number of Jews and the reason they feel the way they, it doesn't excuse bad behavior. It explains, just as nothing explains bad behavior. But it explains what we have to be sensitive to. So please talk on that subject, if you will. I'm trusting that you.
So by the way, on the fact that most black people or people in general never even met a Jew, vice versa, most Jewish people don't have black friends. You're like my 3rd black friend.
I hope you had more. But when you ran the club, did you have black people in the club? Yeah.
So yeah, they were in the club. I can't say that we were buddies, but that when I was working with the rappers and I was working with the celebrities, they were all black, and that was cool. I mean, I lost touch with them since then. But really, I'm just following, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I'm just following his words. He told us, go out. I researched when this whole thing happened, when the spit hit the fan. I researched the whole thing, and our rabbis tell us that go build bridges. So that's why I reached out to you. And to the fear, I think that one of the things that our communities share in common, I don't want to say communities, I want to say community. We're one community under God. We're one people. Is that we have both suffered persecution. Most recently, the blacks were slaves in the United States, and that's going to leave a mark. And the Jews were also slaves in Egypt. And we also suffered persecution in Europe. So I think, like you mentioned a few times, hurt people. We have that in common. And I think that if you touch somebody's scab, if somebody has regular skin and you touch it, it's not going to hurt. But if somebody has a wound and you touch it, it's going to hurt a lot. And I think that's what we share in common. I heard Jay-Z say recently, listen to this, really smart. I love Hove, by the way, the best. Jay-Z, if you're watching this, I love you, buddy. He said something really smart. He said that in the hood, people used to, when they would drive by each other, they would always say, "What are you looking at? What are you looking at?" And that would start a fight. What are you looking at? And he said what they were really trying to say was, don't look at my pain. Don't look at my hurt. What are you looking at? Stop looking at my pain and my hurt. So I think that reaction that Jewish people have when somebody comes out and says that Jews are good at business or Jews run this industry, we're hurt, we're scared. It's touching an open wound. What are you looking at? Meaning, don't look there. We're hurt. And I think that going forward as the Mashiach, as the Messiah is coming closer, God willing, which we believe, as Jews we believe that the world is only getting better. We don't believe that it's getting worse. We believe that the best is yet to come.
This is beautiful. What I said yesterday is of importance today, because what I want to do is build a dialogue. First privately, and talk about the future of Black-Jewish relations. The Black community, and from my specific experiences, more that it's been empowered by its relationship with Jews in many times for business. Certainly my jewelry, my fashion, my film, my television, my financial service, all of those companies, I was partners with Jews. I've said this multiple times. And, and I owned, my part, if it was 51% of the bank, or if it was 100% or 80% of Fat Farm, if it was whatever it was, my companies, and I had partners who helped to enable me and made money as helping me make money, and it was fantastic in every case. Right? Sure. I had all the regulations. And none today would say that we had a bad experience. All would say we had a great experience. I'm talking about 70 licenses.
Wow.
So in the fashion, but in all of these companies, I was empowered. But I think that there should be a march towards greater empowerment and greater partnership. In other words, the Jews have some power. We should not deny that there's some success in the community, and some of those successes help to move policy and process. And so blacks have great power in their numbers.
Oh yeah.
So when people voting one way, then they make a big difference. So how we vote is equally as powerful as how the success of businesses can move our government. So between us, we can make the government become more compassionate. And that's mostly the agenda of the Jewish congressmen that we worked with all the time. We worked with every Jewish congressman as part of our Black Jewish coalition in Washington. So we can work together in more ways, just
nice.
as we that dialogue between the Black caucus, which were way more Black congressmen, and of course the Jews were not that many, but to put them together, to vote alike, to work together, and to push agendas forward that help people, that's something we can do for sure. It's already happening naturally. But what can we do about empowerment and building out communities? There's a lot of availability of land, and there's a lot of opportunity in business that could be shared and built. The numbers versus the power, sometimes the finance. I was lucky enough to learn to finance myself, but the finance of great ideas that happen and the partnerships of great ideas that happen in America from cultural experiences with the Black community, success of the cultural icons, need the funding of all of the businesses that they're starting, the growth of all the businesses that the Black community is finally becoming entrepreneurs. When I was a kid, we weren't entrepreneurs. And even our local stores and businesses were not run by us in many cases. I'd give you a piece of history. The integration of the black community was the destruction of the economics of the black community. The minute we let in white people, whether they were Jews or white or anything else, that was the end of the black doctor, the black pharmacist, the black everything, supermarket. All those things disappeared because of integration. And also in some ways a lack of self-love, because we would pick the black dentist, the Jewish dentist. So there's a lot, America has put a hurting on us. I think some cases, I would say this, the Jews have taken advantage of the color of their skin to some degree, and they're like second class, I don't want to get in trouble, but controversial, I'll say they're second class white people. Right? Am I wrong when I say that because they're white, and perhaps in part because they're white, they were able to take what was given to them, the crumbs that were thrown to them by the WASP, and accelerate in all the businesses that they were allowed to get into. And they accelerated, not only when you look at the numbers of the Forbes 400, and the blacks underperforming but growing slightly, and the Jews overperforming. The WASPs can look at you and say, oh my God, per Jew, they're so much more successful than we are. And so you put those things together, that causes the hate that we have to fight against. There is the reasoning. The success of the community is the reasoning. So be careful. Why they're careful about the way people speak about it, if that's what you're saying, is because they've been threatened for being successful. But there's no reason not to try and continue to build. So I'm saying that there must be some number of bridges that we can cross that will empower the black community and also help protect and empower the Jewish community. And that's what I think the future of the Black-Jewish Relations Summit and results, black intellectuals, Jewish intellectuals, those who care about the future of humanity in general. We have a common enemy, those white supremacists. And there's no question that the people who hate Jews also hate blacks.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. You know, you mentioned something about choosing the black, choosing the Jewish dentist, or I think one of the reasons why Jewish people are successful is, and everybody that's going to be cutting this up on TikTok and Reels, get ready because I'm about to drop a nugget. Okay.
Drop a nugget. Well, I can't be canceled again.
No, it's not that type of nugget. Don't worry. It's a good nugget. I think one of the reasons why Jewish people are successful, there's a Yiddish word, fargin. It means to be happy for another person's success. And we help each other because we believe that at our core, we are the same, meaning the same force, the same power that powers me, that's making my heart tick, and that's making my lungs breathe, and that's making my mind work. That same electricity, that magic godly force, it's the same force that's in the person sitting next to me. So when he does good, I do good. When he hurts, I hurt. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're successful, is because we try to move as one and encourage each other and be happy for each other's success. I have one of my business partners. He comes from a community, not the black community. He comes from a different minority. And he tells me that his community wants to kill each other. When they're successful, they try to kill each other. They're not happy. And what happens is they don't move as one. It's like a rowboat. If everybody's rowing in a different direction, it's just going to go in circles. But if everyone's rowing in the same direction, at the same speed, row, 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 you're going to take off. That was the nugget.
You said something in the brief conversation I had with you before I had faith enough to start this dialogue, because I'm going to start it, and and the rabbis will, they'll only choose the highest and most if we start this thing. But here you are, and I'm really deeply appreciating what you're teaching. You said something in our conversation about what you teach your children about survival in the world and business. And that was really interesting about survival versus stealing. I took it in, but I was almost going to bed last night. So Tell me what you said about that, because it sounded so melodic and beautiful,
Oh,
and
thank you.
the message.
By the way,
Tell,
I like you. I like you, Uncle Rush. We should hang out more often.
huh?
I'm coming to Bali. I'm coming to
Oh,
Bali to come
my
hang out.
hotel.
Can I see it, by the way, for 1
This
second?
is a deeply religious place. In other words, when I say religious as a yogi, we practice meditation daily. We do yoga daily.
I love
We
this.
we sing to God in the kirtan. So you will enjoy the experience.
I'm
And
ready. Let's
it's
go.
a
I'm
beautiful
not as
place.
flexible as you. I can't cross my legs like that. But
It's certainly kosher because we're vegan.
let's go. Let's
But
go.
wait, tell me what you taught, what you
Yes.
teach children
So we have a
about survival and growth.
great question. So we have a book. It's called the Gemara. It's almost 1,000 years old. You know, that's another. When this whole thing started coming out, and people are saying Jews run the world, and Jews run industry, and Jews run all these things. I put out a few videos like, oh, don't be anti-Semitic. The hate on those videos was so rough. And then I said, you know what? Let me change my tune. Let me study what our rabbis say about anti-Semitism. So I made a video called 10 Jewish Business Secrets. That video got 2 million views within 6 days. I never had anything go that viral. Thousands of people shared it. People from all walks of life, thank you for sharing these secrets.
Where's that
Finally,
video? Where can we find that video?
it's on TikTok. It's on TikTok.
TikTok?
And
You're on
TikTok.
TikTok?
Yeah, I kick TikTok's butt. I'm good on TikTok.
Okay, go ahead.
But it went viral. So the first thing in there, which is the thing that you're referring to, our Gemara teaches us, 1,000-year-old wisdom, that every person has a commandment. In Hebrew, it's called a mitzvah. Every person has a commandment to teach their son and to teach their children how to make a living. Because if you don't teach your children how to make a living, it's as if you're teaching them how to steal. Because they will not be able to earn a living any other way but stealing. And
I see people saying they shared your video online.
that's cool.
I've seen that 3 times already on the screen.
That's cool. That's cool. So you know, when it's actually coupled with you have to teach your child how to swim. A man has a response. Why? Because the water is dangerous, and if you don't teach your son how to swim, he's going to go into that water and he's going to drown. And if you could extrapolate those lessons, we have to take care of our children. The most important thing. I'm going to drop another nugget. You ready? You ready? It's a kosher nugget. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's a kosher nugget. The most important thing to our faith, to the Jewish people, is our children. We sit with our kids. We teach our kids. We love our kids. We teach them right from wrong, good from bad, straight. And we try our best to teach them good morals and good principles. And one of those things is we teach our kids how to make a living. And it's imbued in us. The real question is, okay, here's where we might get a little bit in trouble. Why do Jews like money so much? That's the real question. And the answer is simple. Can I go for it? For it?
This shit's going to get us in trouble, but continue.
It's not going to get us in trouble. It's good. Why do Jews like money so much? Is because we look at money not for the physicality of it, but for the spirituality of it. When a Jew makes...
Go ahead.
Say it again?
First, let me say something to you. Everything you say that comes from the Quran and from the teachings is written in stone in the yogic scripture.
Wow.
It is written in stone in the Christian Bible. It is written in stone. Those who meditate deep and sit under a tree and have transmissions from God, those ideas come out of their mouth because they're here.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that, and I know you know, that there's nothing unique about the teachings of Abraham or Muhammad or Lord Buddha or Jesus. They are all one. And this I want to say again because Krishna said it very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, and it rings a bell to me from his mouth, but from all the mouths of the prophets, the same words and ideas.
Wow.
So let me, I have to go to yoga soon, so we have to continue this.
Sure.
You were saying about teaching your son
yes
to fish and to be successful, because if not, you're teaching him to steal. That's a
Yes.
pretty powerful statement. Um, so what Kanye said, which I don't know how that could have pissed anybody off. I think you shared that. I saw that. Him saying that and I saw it again now. There's so much stuff, hate and other stuff. And it's such a divisive world. There's so much polarization. But he said that he was jealous. I don't think that he meant jealous of the Jewish community in general, or all of it, but jealous of the religious Jewish community. So you, as an Orthodox Jew, who is a practicing Orthodox Jew, all the things he said, you go home with your family on Sabbath, you take care of your children, your family, you are dedicated to God, and the things that was promoted to you, you use them. So again, for him, he's abortion is not something that you do, right? So you kind of get along with Kanye in that regard. So he wants our community to have some of the same principles, and I
Sure.
think that's a noble thing. And I certainly, as I gotten older, sometimes you, as a hip hop person, and I've been out of the music business over 20 years, longer than at least over 20 years. And I've always, promoted hip hop summits for empowerment and summits for promotion of nonviolence and, educational about politics. I've always been that activist. We always skated around, and we tell people, as a black entrepreneur, I'm able to tell the South Central Cartel, well, what do you mean by that? They go rewrite their lyrics, and it would explain the frustration. You say people express what's in the environment, but can you explain how you feel about it so that it's now uplifting and instructive versus just. So it is up to us to change the culture to the extent that each individual has the power to do so, to move the culture towards a more God-fearing culture. And that is something that, as I get older, I cannot deny that, and I've always, known, again, that we are responsible for our brothers. And therefore, we can instruct, because the loss of this rapper and the loss of so many rappers over the last 6 months or 2 years, or, it is astounding, but it is a direct reflection to the loss of life in all the communities from which they come. And we have to turn this around. And I think one thing I'll ask you before you leave, there are nonviolence programs in all the communities. And Tamika Mallory, who is also a great, great black leader who was accused of anti-Semitism, but is anything but anti-Semite. But she's strong enough to still love communities, even if they attack her. Tamika Mallory is a very good sister. She posted, I noticed just before we got on, about those organizations. If you find in your heart, people find in their heart, look to those organizations to donate. Because in New York, of course, the mayor, de Blasio, and now Eric Adams are very dedicated to those programs because they are strong nonviolence programs and they are very successful. We want to do things to promote nonviolence and uplift our community, and those programs exist. And we had 50, at least in 25 cities we had in America, programs that Rushcard helped to promote with Captain Dennis Muhammad. Oh, Captain Dennis is trying to get what? Oh, he's asking for something. I wish he'd get on right. Captain Dennis Muhammad is talking about his program on my text as we're speaking. So, yes, he built 25 programs that I worked with him on that were nonviolence programs that were very, very successful, and they were depending on local community support, and the mayors of the cities that should be pushed have the funding and can make a difference. So we either push the governmental assistance programs to help them or donate ourselves to all these programs. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, but I have to go to yoga. I'm 5 minutes late. I got to get on my scooter and go to class.
Go
It's a
ahead.
pleasure talking to you.
You too, man.
It was
And
a great pleasure and a surprise. And I see you have quite a few followers. So that's good. You will help share the message of love and reconciliation and bridge building. And when we work together, I hope you will work with me, brother, on the summit that I want to put together of the future of Black-Jewish relations.
Mr. Simmons, I stand behind you 100% because I see the good that you're doing in this world, and I'm happy to be a vehicle to help bridge that community and get you access to whoever you need.
So, as you're speaking, Fat Joe is texting back to the text that Captain Dennis said, send me the link and I'll send you the money. Share the link that you're sharing with Fat Joe, and I will share it, Captain Dennis, so that we can have people donate to the Peacekeepers, which is the program you have. Thank you so much.
Shout out to Fat Joe.
I had to take more. I have your number now, not
yes.
just. And I'm really lucky that I never look on people's DMs. I didn't even get DMs, obviously. I just saw you said for your people to text me so we could talk. And today, after yesterday, we're talking. And I think that we're going to have a great friendship and do a lot of good in the world.
Absolutely. So shout out to Fat Joe. By the way, if DJ Khaled is watching, I always get that I look like the Jewish DJ Khaled. And anyways, it was really... It was really nice to meet you. God bless you. Everything you do, I'm behind your initiatives 100%. You call me, message me, whatever it is you need. And let's get this train back on the tracks and let's build. Because we've done a lot of good together, and there's so much. The future is very, very bright with God's help.
God bless you.
You too, my brother.
Go to class.
Okay, be well. Take care.